Pentagon burns over $64 million deal. Alumnus sues Professor Ernest Aite and others at the Supreme Court says agreement was signed on the dark side of the government of Ghana and the Public Procurement Authority.
The Daily Graphic newspaper, 71 students duped, expected conference suspected to be fake, visas revoked. Also on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, Ghana teacher price introduced. Back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, settled boarding grant arrears for schools in Upper East. That's a conference of assistant heads of schools appealing to government. And of course, Kandahar boys storm Tamale Teaching Hospital, lock out CEO, chase out secretary. Yeah.
Now, the BNFT is reporting this morning, auditors of collapsed banks must be investigated. There are also a story on the back page, 27 defunct SOEs to be deleted from government books, 7 more to be traced, and that's on the BNFT. But there's a group that's kicking against bauxite mining in Atiwa. And if I were to sound, I'd say Atewa. But yeah, in Atiwa Forest, and that's on the back page of the BNFT.
Okay, let me begin with you, Raymond.
Yes, boss.
We have the latest on the banking saga.
Yes, yesterday we brought you news that EOCO has finally, officially written to the directors and shareholders, those or board members, so directors, shareholders who are directly involved, and board members of the various banks, more importantly, the 5 that recently collapsed, about their role in this collapse. The probe has begun. The people have received these letters. We understand that very soon they will file it one by one to go and answer for their stewardship at these banks. And that is because we know that we brought you the reasons why these banks collapsed. Some of them, they deceived the Bank of Ghana. Willful deceit is the expression that's mostly used in all of this, that they had what it takes to actually qualify to be a bank when they didn't. Others just mismanaged the funds that were available to them. Even when they were giving liquidity support, they still threw it around like it was nobody's business and ended up being virtually bankrupt. And in this case, they were insolvent at the point in time. They had to go through process of recovery. If you recall, in Unibank's case, there was even an appointed administrator to come and manage affairs and turn around in 6 months. But the report from the administrator suggests that the situation was very bad, that the bank was irredeemably
according to the
bankrupt.
Bank of Ghana.
Yes. So that was the state of affairs that this is going to be investigated. Remember that various groups have called for investigations. You do know that the Christian Council is the latest group to have issued a statement that said that greed and corruption might have been the main reason why these banks collapsed. Whether or not greed and corruption, and we know that the report from the Bank of Ghana suggests that there were specific provisions of Act 930, that's the Banking and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act. That particular act, specific provisions were breached in this case. Those are the provisions that are going to be the leading, reason for the EOCO to go further. Yes, so
but you know,
Raymond, their role.
EOCO has already started investigating some of the directors of these banks.
Yes.
And our sources at EOCO tell us that they are ready to charge William Atu Essien for the 27 million Ghana cedis he took allegedly to bribe BOG officials.
That's the one for business promotion.
That's how they tagged it. Until recently, I was not.
And it was part of the liquidity support.
Yes.
Amazing.
So we will see. No, but so if they are going to charge them, they have to charge the BOG officials too, because both the giver and the taker, they are supposed to be.
That's if it is proven.
That's if it is proven.
Yes.
Well, it's still an allegation. So if
he
collected evidence, and of course, if they took it, because he could have attempted to bribe.
Yes.
And it could have been that the BOG officials did not take it.
So
all I'm saying is that it's not automatic. We need to know what the investigations uncover fully before we can say that this person is going to. What we know now is that William Atu Essien is going to be charged by EOCO, and that's what our sources at EOCO are telling us.
So the parliamentary probe we were anticipating yesterday, it won't happen. And in fact, we actually had a minority member of parliament at a press conference yesterday.
I interviewed him on Joy News today, Dr. Kwabena Donko.
Yes.
He's a ranking. I know I'm referring to a different person.
Yes.
But
it's him.
Yeah, he is him.
Yes.
Good. So he's ranking on the Employment Committee. And I asked him directly that you have been complaining about these workers. What are you going to do as a member of parliament? He said that he and a group of other members of parliament are going to suggest to their chairman of finance and chairman of employment, to invite the governor of the Bank of Ghana to fully brief the two committees. And he's going to make a strong case for that when Parliament resumes.
After he spent a lot of time yesterday lambasting the
Bank of Ghana.
And not seeking to directly hold the directors of the bank accountable. But still
but
staying
of course,
with the bank.
Malik, okay, before you go into this new angle of the
Yes.
banks, it will only be fair that we bring a wrap of the news we broke this morning.
Yes, and that's the statement that has been issued by the General Overseer of the ICGC, who also served as board chairman of Capital Bank. And
Defunct Capital.
yes, the first statement, I mean, it goes this way. I have observed with concern the ongoing media discussions regarding developments in the banking sector and my role either directly or indirectly. To me, the most important parts are the part who says, I accepted to be board chairman of the Capital Bank in a bid to help strengthen a promising Ghanaian enterprise that had potential, but also challenges. I was excited about the prospects of a young man from a disadvantaged background who was daring to create opportunities and employment. It proceeds to say that my position was a non-executive role. I was therefore not involved in the day-to-day management and operations of the bank. He also says that in the course of time, some decisions made turned out well, while some did not turn out as well as had been anticipated. As far as I can tell, everything was done with the best of intentions and the interest of various stakeholders in mind. My foremost concern, the statement continues, as has been the case over the past year, is for the well-being of those who lost their jobs and those who may have been adversely affected in any way as a result of these developments. My heart goes out to them and to their dependents. I continue to pray for God's guidance and sustenance as they navigate the course of their lives. And it proceeds to say, since the takeover of the bank exactly a year ago today, various mandated state institutions have been investigating and working to arrive at a comprehensive understanding of what happened.
Okay.
And it says that why it had happened and who was responsible for what happened. I have been invited by IOCO and I've submitted myself to their processes and answered all their questions faithfully. And he also asked the point that this is the more reason why he's not come out to respond to some of the claims out there, and that he's a believer in the rule of law. He will continue to cooperate with the mandated institutions of state as they complete their investigations, and is confident in the process, the national interest, the rights of all parties involved will be protected, and ends with shalom, peace, and life to.
Okay, so that's it. That's the statement that was just released this morning. Expect more analysis on that later in the show. Malik, what else do we know?
Yeah, so I was saying that the banks, Raymond was just talking about some of the banks, and I just have the Graphic Business newspaper, which is reporting that Sahel Sahara Bank is merging with Omni Bank. There was an earlier deal which was supposed to happen between Sahel Sahara and then GN Bank, which didn't quite happen.
Sahel Sahara Premium and GN Bank.
Yes, but now it's Sahel Sahara and then Omni Bank merging, which means they will avoid any problems with meeting the minimum capital requirements.
Great.
But finally, and Raymond's first story, he was talking about finally, Yoko has finally brought the... But the president has finally commissioned one district, one factory.
Malik, I hate to burst your bubble. What did the presidents do at Ekunfi last year?
Oh, that one, they were just planting the seeds for the...
Okay, that was a sort cutting.
Yes, sort cutting.
So this is a commissioning.
That's what we started counting the 20 cash salt we will do, we have done, we may do. Yes.
Okay, so we've gotten to 20. So this is number one commissioning.
This is number one commission. And the president commissioned this factory in Kumasi. It is a Springs and Bowls limited company. That's a company which is going to produce a number of things. This is the first one, this is one factory. And they will be producing U-bolts, leaf springs, trailer suspension parts, bolts and nuts, a number of things. They'll be importing raw materials, and as part of the processes to engineer this company to work well, if they import any raw materials, they will not pay any taxes on them. They have tax breaks. The Ministry of Trade and Industry is supposed to give them 2 technical experts who will provide free advisory services to the company. And then they will give them some NAPCO members as well to try and keep the company producing bolts and nuts and all of that. And this is in Kumasi. The president, when he was commissioning this company, announced that a lot of money, 2.5 billion Ghana cedis, it's coming from many banks in Ghana to try and help to build the companies. Okay. Apart from that, also there are banks and institutions in the UK and US and China which are also pledging some $700 million as credit to facilitate the construction and building of some of the companies under one district, one factory. So finally, we have one district, one factory.
For my reading of that story, they have some exemptions when it comes to raw materials that they will be importing. Tax exemptions, yeah. And the story is not clear as to whether they have started operations, full-scale operations.
Yes,
now.
They have started production. And when they import raw materials, they will not pay any tax. They have tax holidays for 5 years. That has been granted them. Of course, you know that foreign companies, when they come into this country, they also enjoy tax breaks.
No, of course. But thanks for that, Malik. Thanks for that. Ray, let's move into the SEC, shall we?
Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been cleaning its setup too. You do remember that this is the time where financial sector is being put in the right shape in all of its forms. But it has still issued the latest orders in an attempt to clean the sector. What it's saying is that fund managers, those who manage funds, specifically the companies involved, they should stop issuing, listen to this one, fixed term and guaranteed returns to clients. This is in breach of their regulations. And even though it's in breach of their regulations, these fund managers and their companies have been promising clients which they have failed to deliver in times past, which they have failed to make do and end up in collapsing some of these institutions before. This is according to the Director General of the SEC, Reverend Daniel Ogbami Tete, and he's giving 6 months ultimatum to all of the people involved that we know that you try to do some of these things in times past. We don't want to cause chaos in the sector. You have 6 months to clear all of these fixed, term and guaranteed returns, so that you come back to the reasons why you were set up. You live a healthy life and not make promises you can't live up to in the nearest future. He's also been responding to, Isaac Adongo, who is Member of Parliament for Bolgatanga Central's claim that the SEC is partly to be blamed for the collapse of the local banks in the country and also for the current difficulties the people of this republic have with men's gold. Now, his response is that is either Isaac Adongo is ignorant or he's engaging in plain mischief. The Reverend is not a very excited man this morning about the conduct of the MP. He says, there's a lot of things that cannot be allowed to be said by people who are supposed to know better. The MP said that over 30 billion funds under management by the fund managers, the unwinding of their investments in banks had denied banks a lot of money and is partly to blame for the liquidity crisis facing the sector. But Reverend Obami believes that the accusation of the MP is clearly misinforming the public on this one. In fact, he believes that they advise fund management to be very careful about how they put in money wherever they put in. And so these claims are not legitimate. And that brings it to the other element of whether or not the SEC is also in charge of running men's gold. The claim many have said is that it is running from regulatory agency to the other. It is virtually doing forum shopping on where best it can be run in this particular case. It found refuge under the Minerals Commission. The Minerals Commission in its 2017 September letter clearly stipulates that we cannot and men's gold cannot operate as it's currently operating. So that's the latest difficulty that they are having.
Yes,
I don't know if they'll still find refuge under the Bank of Ghana though.
We have more on this on the show, so you want to stay tuned with us. But Malik, some 71 students have been duped. How?
Charlie, 71 students. And these students were supposed to participate in a conference in New York, a Model United Nations conference in New York. That's what they were supposed to participate in.
Oh, that's it.
And these students paid various sums of money for visa acquisition, for visa application. They bought plane tickets and all of that. And after they were done, all 71 of them, the U.S. Embassy suspects that the organization which is organizing this conference is a suspicious one. And so they revoked all the licenses. And
really?
Yes. They revoked all the licenses. So these guys, some of them bought their plane tickets. They actually got to Kotoka International Airport to travel, and then their licenses were
revoked. No, wait, I don't get it. So the embassy revoked...
issued them with visas. And then afterwards, subsequently, the embassy suspected that the organization which is organizing this conference is not a credible one.
Did they establish, or it was based on a suspicion? Did they carry out any investigation to make sure that this organization is really not credible?
The story says that the embassy is suspicious.
Because you know what?
No. Are they going to refund the money that these persons expended when getting the visas?
Refunded where? When you apply?
No, but so the U.S. Embassy has issued visas. They issued the visas to people, and they are suspecting that the organization which facilitated this is not on the up and up. So based on that suspicion, they have gone to remove visas from people's hands at the airport.
The organization is United
Tell me that
Ambassadors.
is not a lawsuit waiting to happen.
It is United Ambassadors. Well, I mean, usually when they give you a visa,
tell me,
they retain the right to revoke it if they have
at
reasonable suspicion. Yes, they have reasonable suspicion that you either obtain the visa by fraud or some misrepresentation, or they can revoke the visa.
And the general principle in international law is that if you can't protect, don't admit. So, as for right to entry into their country, they can actually revoke it at any time. You can pursue the case, but right of entry is always theirs. But I know this institution. I remember on campus there was
United Ambassadors.
Yes, they used to do it. They sent so many people to the US.
I've seen
program a lot
I remember
of
when I was on campus as well.
Yes, they were sending people all over the place. But I'm sure.
In fact, some students actually got to Heathrow Airport and they were sent back.
Yeah. To Heathrow.
Yes, they were sent back because their visas had been.
My tardy boys will call this
hometown.
Okay, so let's move online. And the online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank in your best interest and Goyle Good Energy. Download the Safe Doctor app now from Google Play. Safe Doctor, the future of better medical care. Now is the time to own a Zenith MasterCard. Apply for a Zenith MasterCard debit or prepaid card from any Zenith Bank branch nationwide and enjoy two great things. No issuance fee and a chance to receive a gift of a prepaid card with a preloaded amount of the city equivalent of $50. Isn't this exciting? Don't be left out. Sign up for your Zenith MasterCard debit or prepaid card today. Offer is available to account and non-account holders. Terms and conditions apply. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. You've got great love for your vehicle. You want the engine to last longer and perform to its maximum. It's okay. Goyle has the new super synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubricants for you. These specially engineered superior engine oils work efficiently on all modern petrol and diesel engines. They clean, protect, reduce fuel consumption, prolongs oil change intervals, and enhance engine performance from startup till you switch off. Go to any Goyle filling station and grab the new Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Engineering innovation for your vehicle has arrived. Goyle Good Energy. Now, the Skills Development Fund invites all micro, small and medium enterprises across the country to apply for grant support to improve the capacity of their workforce for enhanced productivity and competitiveness. Public and private training institutions are also invited to apply for support to develop innovative training content for the private sector. The application window is open till 31st August 2018. Enterprises in agribusiness and renewable energy sectors and those owned or managed by women are especially encouraged to apply. To apply, visit sdfghana.org. Skills Development Fund, Skilling Ghana for Sustainable Development. MyJoyOnline.com is where we begin. Tamale police vowed to force open TTH offices locked by Vigilante Group, and that's TTH is for Tamale Teaching Hospital. The Vigilante Group is Kandahar Boys. PrimeNewsGhana.com says, revealed how NDC appointee used 28,000 cedis of public funds for his sister's funeral. That appointee is a former executive secretary of the collapsed Health Training Institute Secretariat. And this is according to the Auditor General's report on public accounts of Ghana MDAs for the financial year ended December 31, 2017. Christopher Bere is the man involved. The BBC says Kenya fraud charges over Chinese funded $3 billion railway. So there are some Kenya fraud, there are some fraud charges over a Chinese funded $3 billion railway. It's time for us to go. We'll be going for the BBC News. Remember, today we are dealing with that statement that has been released by Pastor Mensa Otabil, General Overseer of the ICGC and former board chair of now defunct Capital Bank. And there is more to talk about when it comes to men's gold. You want to stay with us for all of that. So let me say a special good morning to two fathers of mine who are doing the listening. Vincent Ochre Akomia and Nane J. Sikapa. Good morning, says they are both elders of the Church of Pentecost, PIWC Graceland in Nungwa. And since I mentioned that, let me also say good morning to Pastor Ebenezer Ejapong of PIWC Graceland. Have a good morning, says the BBC News is next.
This was Kwame